Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Washington County. It's 4 o'clock. That is the designated time for our meeting. We will begin today's meeting by an invocation that will be offered by Jesse Stocking of Solomon's Porch. It will be followed by a Pledge of Allegiance by retired Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force, Gary Stoltz. We'll proceed in that order.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm here today on behalf of the St. George Interfaith Council and my church, Solomon's Porch Foursquare Fellowship. I have lived in Utah's Dixie for 33 years this month, so this is a great way to celebrate for me.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I love Washington County, and so I'm honored and truly blessed to serve our community in this way. And I just want to ask everybody to prepare their mind and heart as we come together in prayer. Think about what we're thankful for. So, our Father in heaven, we come together in prayer and give thanks for the many provisions that you have given us. Thank you for all of the funding and provision and material for Washington County and all of its projects. I ask a blessing of protection and guidance on all of its departments, especially those who serve to keep us safe with law enforcement. I ask that you would bless a mighty hedge of protection around them as they do their work, and for all the residents of Washington County and all the towns and areas in our area, and all those who are traveling on our roadways, especially with protection and guidance and wisdom as they travel, they would be safe. I ask that you would bless all of the workers in all of the departments of Washington County the same. We're so grateful and give thanks in the name of Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you very much, Jesse.
Thank you.
Welcome.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you both, and Colonel, thank you for your service. And Jesse, my comment on happy birthday is life begins when you moved here, right?
Amen.
Okay. Our first item of business today is the consent agenda, and it is a means of expediting routine matters which come before the Commission for approval. The consent portion of the agenda is approved by one non-debatable motion. If any commissioner wishes to remove an item from the consent portion of the agenda, that item becomes the first item of business on the regular agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for May 22nd, 2019 through June 4th, 2019. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes and work meeting minutes from May 21st, 2019. C, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property. E, consideration of application for property tax abatement. F, consideration of disposal of surplus property from the Washington County Legacy Park.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion has been made and seconded to approve today's consent agenda. All in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. For our regular agenda items today, we will begin with purchase requests. We've asked our esteemed purchasing expert, and you've got a title for that probably, Ray.
What?
Have you acquired any of the certifications for all of this money you spend? Is
Working on it.
perfect.
Okay.
So
I just dropped these, so hopefully I get them back in the right order. The first one I have is for the sheriff's office. It's for a new 24-foot trailer, in the total of $25,923. This is a replacement trailer for the bomb squad trailer, which that trailer will then be renovated and put in and retrofitted to be the mobile incident command trailer. We're getting,
So the old trailer didn't get blown up.
nope.
I know that's a really bad joke, but it just.
And the new trailer is being paid for, I was told, with grant money.
Excellent.
And then the next one is for the roads department. It's to crack and seal a section of SR 18 on the Pine Valley Highway. And it's a total of $51,880. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any
Move to-
questions for Ray?
I don't. I move to approve those purchase requests.
I'll second that motion, Mr.
Motion
Chairman.
has been made and seconded in support of the purchase requests. All in support, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 2. Mr. Hafen, report and consideration of 2019 Washington County tax sale.
Leno Kim will do, actually, Commissioner. So on May 23rd, the county held its annual tax sale. Properties get in the tax sale by having some sort of property tax that's at least 5 years delinquent. Doesn't have to have all 5 years, but if something is delinquent for out 5 years, it's in jeopardy. So we started out with 147 parcels that were in that kind of situation, which is one of the lowest, I think the lowest total to start with that I've had since I've been here at the county. We ended up with 7 at the end, which is similar to what, I think we had 7 last year as well, so that didn't change very much, although it was easier to get there with less to work on. So I think you have in your packet the results report to the county commission of the 7 items that were sold. I'm recommending to you that you rescind 3 of those sales and have those revert to the county. Those are the 3 maps that I gave you. If you look at the first, I don't have those maps probably in the same order this is, but the Black Rock Development Group tax sale number 23, it is a parcel of property that is in a parking lot in a condo project that the city of St. George has a well on. At one point that was deeded to the city, and then in air it got kind of deeded back to the developer, and so somebody bought that. I did my best to recommend to the bidders that they wouldn't bid on that, but I had no influence over that. So that was purchased. It really should belong to the city of St. George. There's really no, I don't think, any purpose for somebody else to have that. So that's the Black Rock Development Group. And that bid was just the minimum. That was the bid that was offered. The next one that I'd recommend that you rescind the sale on is number 24. It's the owner's name was Todd R. Robinson. It's a little sliver of property behind a lot in Sunbrook. It remained out there separate because I believe the home was lost in foreclosure, and both of the parcels were not encumbered by the loan that was foreclosed on. So it stayed outside of the new ownership. And the person that owns the house came and bid on that property, but she was outbid for that sliver. And it really is useful to the homeowner and not really to someone else. It's bordered by common area, so the person that bought it could get to it, but they'd have to go across like landscaping at Sunbrook to get to that sliver of property. The third one is a parcel in Washington. The people bought a parcel there that it's in Worldwide Sun Resorts, I believe is the name of the subdivision there, but they bought the parcel of ground and assumed that they were getting all of that parcel. This is the Darlene J. Horton property, and it's landscaped, and they thought, I believe that they paid for it when they got that property, but there was two pieces there. Only one got transferred at the time of the sale, which was in 2004. So they've had that property since 2004. The county was not taxing that property until 2014. I think that was an oversight. So there was actually no taxes being paid on that little sliver between about 2004 and 2014. Then they discovered that it was not being taxed, and it was still in the name of Mrs. Horton. And so she got the tax bill, but she had passed, and so that remained, the taxes went unpaid. So,
And the heirs would have just assumed that they had sold that property when they sold the house.
right, the heirs assumed they had sold it, and the Tuttles who bought that assumed that they had purchased it. And a person that bought this property, I don't think can get to that without crossing somebody else's private property to
I
get there.
notice it abuts the home as well.
Yeah. So that's my recommendation to you on, it was an interesting tax sale for just having what we had there. So I'll make that recommendation to you.
Thank you,
Commissioners,
Kim.
Commissioners, just as kind of historical reference, the county in the past has had a policy against approving parcels that where the only value of them is a nuisance value. And a nuisance value is kind of a term where if someone buys a property where, it's a few feet wide, it's in someone else's yard, landscaped yard, the only reasonable value that person who bought it could get out of that would be to cause a nuisance to someone until they paid them enough to buy it from them. There's just not much benefit in crossing someone's yard and sticking a lawn chair up in their backyard and sitting in it because you own a 5-foot strip in the back of a yard. So these three properties kind of fit within that, where the county has an approved sales where it would be a nuisance property or a nuisance purchase.
The state statute allows
There's a public policy
For us
that you can
to,
do that.
some leeway in which ones we approve or disapprove.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. No. Step up and give your name, and I'll give you a minute. But this isn't a meeting that the public is allowed to address us, but I will allow it.
Frank McCown. I purchased lot number 23. The auditor under Utah Code had the authority to not offer properties for sale that he thought would be best in the county's ownership for the public good. The city also has power to seize property under eminent domain law, and they've got other remedies available to them, such as a private party sale if they wish to own the property. I think those would be a better method for the city to acquire the property rather than to simply cancel a sale.
But we do have the
Sale
power to
hasn't happened
cancel the
yet.
sale, and so the easiest thing would be for us to vote to rescind the sale based on
To not ratify that.
not ratify the sale.
I would request that you did not do that.
Note taken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I respectfully disagree with. It's totally proper for us to rescind the sale. Especially when we start talking about the nuisance situation. We don't sell properties to make other people's lives miserable. We sell properties because that's kind of the process. But in this county, we go through all of the steps. Try not to. These are clearly, mistakes in survey. For example, the one that the Tuttles bought, the previous owners had passed on. He wasn't even there to get the mail. you know, they thought they'd purchased that with their house. They'd been paying their property tax like every good citizen. So this was quite a shock for them to suddenly realize that, you know, there was a possibility for somebody to now have leverage over them in their backyard. So I think it's the proper thing for the county, and I'm going to make a motion that we accept the sales, except for the 3 items that we've talked about, and I would make a motion that we rescind those sales on those 3.
And I'll second with one extra item of clarification on the one that Mr. McCown talked about. It's also in a gated community. It's also inside of an HOA. Also directly opposite someone's parking stalls. It's just not appropriate, so I second that and feel the rescinding action is proper with the others going through.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion has been made and seconded to accept the clerk auditor's recommendation approving 4 and striking 3. And the 3 that would be struck then would be parcel number 913275, 615214, and 908574. That would be my motion. All in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Actually, Commissioner Iverson's motion. I just restated it just a little bit for clarity.
Exactly.
Item number 3, consideration of the 2019 certified tax rates for Washington County and the Rockville-Springdale Fire Protection District. Kim.
Thank you, Commissioner. That was perfect. Maybe we'll start with Rockville-Springdale Fire. It requires less explanation. As you know, the Commission took back the budgetary responsibility for that district pending its inclusion in Hurricane Valley. And I believe you have in front of you the certified tax rate, which is .000173, which generates $59,224 in revenue. And I believe they contract with Hurricane Valley to have that, once they receive that money, transferred that to them. Since this is a calendar year entity, there's not really much you can do about this but lower that rate. So I would recommend that certified tax rate and revenue to you for Rockville-Springdale Fire.
Thank you. Do we want to
I can do all
this
3
with
or
2 motions, Eric? One for the Rockville-Springdale or one motion for both?
You could do it either way. You can do them all
Okay,
at
Kim,
once.
go ahead and do the Washington County.
Okay, the next one has 3 tax rates on it. It's for Washington County. It includes general operations, interest and seeking fund for the bonds, and the library. And again, all those, well, the 2, general operations and library, is a certified tax rate. We did not go through truth in taxation hearings last fall, and we haven't done that since I've been here at least. So you see the revenue generated by those 2 tax rates. For the general operations, it's $10,223,952, and for the library, $3,533,541. The exception to the certified tax rates is the money that's allocated for the debt service on GO bonds. And we have 2 GO bonds left. One is a 2002-2004 B bonds that were for the library and the COA. Those were refinanced in 2010, and they pay off in 2024. And we also have refinancing of a 2007 library bond that was refinanced in 2016 that pays off in 2026. What I'm recommending to you is that, and we did the same thing last year, that we pay off the smaller bond, not pay off, but pay the debt service with a fund balance, which is the 2007 library bond. And so instead of having a tax burden in the neighborhood of $1.7 million to the taxpayers, it would just be $1.342975, which is the debt service on the bond that was refinanced in 2010. And we did that last year because we have sufficient fund balance to do that. And that reflects directly on a taxpayer's tax bill.
And that fund balance maybe grows on these general obligations because of new growth, things that comes into the county?
Not quite so much on new growth, but what we end up getting is people that didn't pay their taxes on time. Those prior year taxes come in, and if those taxes were part of that tax rate, that goes into the fund balance for those bonds. So every year when we budget for the money to pay the bonds, we budget what we need, but we end up getting a bit more because of past due taxes and because our the tax rates are a bit complicated, but part of the calculation is that it's based on a moving average of the people that pay on time, and that has been going up. And so if it continues to do that, we'll collect a bit more in property tax than what the rate would have forced out. So that ends up going into whatever particular fund it applies to.
Designated for.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and the last one, now this one, it's always kind of scary when we talk about this, but that we have another tax rate, which is county assessing and collecting. A long time ago, the county used to do these same functions, but billed the taxing entities, and then later on a tax rate was generated that would just pay the county for those services. And those include the treasurer in full, the assessor, and then parts of other departments that are involved with the assessing and collecting process. I'm recommending to you that the certified tax rate would be 0.000390 and generate $7,105,600, but I'm recommending to you a decrease in that certified tax rate to 0.000376, which would be a decrease from the certified revenue of $250,000. Over the course of time, that rate has generated more than sufficient amount of money to fund what we do in assessing and collecting. And I think it's appropriate that because that's the way it is, that the taxpayers get a bit of a break on that tax line. Of course, that's your call, but that's my recommendation to you.
Thank you, Kim. Questions for the clerk auditor?
Well, so if somebody says you never lower a tax rate, this would be the one time we could point that out.
You could do it
Correct.
twice. You could do it
Do it
twice here with
twice-
debt service
twice
and with
on this
assessing and collecting.
Very good.
Very good.
Well, I'll move that we approve the considered 2019 certified tax rates for Washington County and the Rockville Springville Fire Protection District.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioners. All in support of Commissioner Almquist's motion, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item number 4, consideration of an ordinance number 2019-1138-0, an ordinance adopting the International Fire Code as amended by the state of Utah. And we've got our emergency services director and a gentleman with a lot of fire experience and the Hurricane Valley Fire Chief, Jason Whipple and Tom Kuhlman. Would you come up and explain what the International Fire Code is and why we should adopt it?
All right, Commissioners, the International Fire Code is it's the code that really is the standard that we use in inspecting and the code that we use to verify that things are up to snuff out in the communities for fire codes. I don't know, Tom probably has more to say on it than I do. He's a little bit more up on it recently, but I'll let you talk about it.
So the International Fire Code goes hand in hand with the other codes specified in your ordinance. Those other codes will deal with the structure itself. The fire code deals with the life safety components of what happens within that building. The county continues to grow. We see a greater need to have that code applied throughout the county as we get larger facilities in areas where you traditionally didn't have those. Your International Wildland Urban Interface Code won't address those questions. Fire code will. So as you go through the ordinance you have before you, I think it's a very good one referencing that fire code. The only suggestions I would make is under section G, where it talks about fire hydrant spacing and location, as well as under 9-1-4, you reference appendices in there. The International Fire Code specifies you have to specifically reference. So I'd recommend that you would specify in there after appendices, just add A through D. A is your appeals board. If you choose to use that, B will talk about the fire flows that are referenced in your code. C will do the spacing of the hydrants that's also referenced, and then D is access. Those are the common ones that are adopted with the code. The other ones deal with hazardous materials and other things that the county's probably not in a position or have an interest to enforce at this time. This would bring you up to speed with what the state adopted codes are, the codes that would apply in those areas. give you now 2 codes that you can apply throughout the county were applicable.
So urban interface, WUI or whatever it's called. WUI. That applies out in our rural,
That code's
areas.
designed more for cabins, small residences. The International Fire Code, if somebody wants to build a restaurant, a hotel, a hospital. The best description I have, someone when asked me, they said, well, no, WUI code applies anywhere in the unincorporated area of a county. If that were applied in Nevada, the Las Vegas Strip would be under the WUI code.
Okay.
And so
So we need to refine the WUI map a little bit.
Correct.
And
the recommendation
and
would do
work
that.
with Adam and the group to do that. And that was brought out as a result of your meeting, and we appreciate, I'm calling out Adam Hyder, our fire warden as well, this group that works with us to make sure that we have responsible and appropriate codes and that they're applied in the right places, because we have some parts of the unincorporated county that are clearly urban in nature.
Correct.
And that should strictly follow the International Fire Code.
Yeah, the
Okay.
WUI code would not address those.
Thank you. Any questions for the chief or the other experts we have assembled? We've got some great ones here today.
What's the distance between hydrants? I recognize that in a subdivision, that will be laid out if they are under pressurized water.
Correct. And that's where adopting dependencies, BC,
Okay.
take care of it. B will tell you how much water's got to be available based on what the occupancy is. C will talk about the hydrant spacing. So you're out in the rural area, every 1,000 feet or greater, it would be applicable depending which code you're using. As you get a more dense population, it can go to 500 feet, 250 feet, or even more, depending on what the density would be. If you've been out by Page, you've got a nice little, what would you call that place out there? A nice little development that people with a lot of money go spend $12,000 a night to stay in.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Hydrant density is a little bit heavier there than you would be around that area because of the type of occupancy. Whereas with a cabin, the water supply is much less, availability and distribution is far greater.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for all that you do for us,
Thank you.
all of you.
Commissioners, the version before you, I was talking with Chief Coleman right before the meeting, and I didn't get it as clean as I probably should have. So it incorporates appendices B, C, and D, but not A. Your recommendation was to include A in that.
Case of the appeals, 5 different professionals. So the county's allowed for someone to decide how they want to deal with appeals. You want to use the code, appendices A deals with that. There's 5 professionals that are involved in an appeals board. A design engineer, a fire protection engineer, a general contractor, I think just a business community member, and I can't remember the 5th one is, comes together and help to make sure the code's being interpreted properly. That's something the county can put somewhere else if you would like. It's just, one thing you'd have to work out is what if there's going to be appeal to the code, how do we want to handle that? And Appendix A deals with that.
And so the choice that you guys have is we have a provision in our code that has it go to an appeal, and I'm blanking on it. I think it goes to Scott and it's an entity that he puts together. If you adopt appendices A, then for fire codes, we would have a special
specify
fire
what that
group
board would
who does that. Otherwise, our default would be this. And you guys can just, in your motion, either way, we'll just make
Do
the
you
correction.
have a recommendation?
The more that I look into fire code, the more specialized it is. And so I don't have any heartburn saying if someone wants to appeal a fire code that we're going to put together a group of fire experts.
That would be A.
And so that would be including A. I'm not sure if the chief cares one way or the other.
I've worked under systems that do it both ways. The key is that you have an appeals board so that the developers and others feel like they have an avenue to discuss their opinions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, discussion. on-
Well, I mean,
the option
because I can go
A.
either way on, what the chief talks about is we definitely need a due process. We need some sort of appeal process. I don't want to get too redundant, but I don't think our current appeals process has a fire chief involved.
I don't think.
So with that, I think I'd take the advice of the chief and I'd like to make a motion that we pass ordinance 2019-1138-0, an ordinance adopting the International Fire Code as amended by the state of Utah and adding Appendix A.
Okay,
Second.
Now, you said it was,
So the version they have in front of them has B, C, and D, so they're just adding A into that.
so yeah,
Adding
so
A.
we're just adding A because B, C, and D are already on it. Okay, so the motion has been made to adopt the ordinance.
I
The
seconded it.
amendment. You second. All in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Carries, and that's ordinance number 2019-1138-0. Item number 5, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2474, a resolution approving tourism advisory board recommendations. Brittany, you're here. Would you like to come up and tell us about those? And I can maybe fill in any blanks if...
So you have the resolution in front of you. The Tourism Advisory Board met on May 23rd to discuss some funding projects that were presented to allocate some transient room tax dollars. So we'll just go down the list if that works for you. $100,000 to Zion Forever project. It's the centennial year for Zion National Park, and as part of that, Zion Forever has been asked to create a new movie for the Visitor Center, which it's in desperate need of, and they're actually going to do a longer version of it that will be probably presented at different film festivals around the nation that will feature Zion National Park. So as a partner, we will have our new brand attached to all of their social media, all of the videos, everything that goes out. So it's a great opportunity for us to partner with Zion Forever. You have any questions about that one?
no, that's,
Okay. Zion Regional Collaborative for $250,000. That's a partnership with Dixie State, Southern Utah University, and Dixie Tech, and also a private company that will be the developer of an app for Zion National Park that will give real-time data to our visitors coming in. So it will tell them, hey, right now the parking lot's full, so here are some other options of things to do, and plan on coming back at a different time later in the day. It's going to be so helpful for people. Not only will it ease the frustrations of people coming into the park, but it also gives them a lot of suggestions of things that they can do outside of the park in the county.
how does the governance and how is that going to operate?
There's going to be a board.
Who is the Zion Regional Collaborative?
So there's the four partners. There's Dixie State, SUU, and then
UWAT,
Dixie
the
Tech,
Utah Office
UWAT,
of Tourism, and the Utah
UDOT.
Department of Transportation.
So there'll be a governing board that will meet
And
monthly.
if I can make one comment here, I've actually been working each day with Vicki Varela and the Utah Office of Tourism on this particular matter. And UWAT has been in close contact and coordination with UDOT. And they're going to set up a meeting down here in St. George where we can get together and iron that out, and state funding will be contingent upon these questions that you're raising being answered, and probably formalized through some type of an agreement on how that will be done. And so as we consider this motion, my recommendation would be that we fund this contingent upon UWAT and UDOT and all of these partners coming together and executing that agreement so that we can have answers for that funding. But I think we're all on the same page.
Because,
and I think
right
it's a
now we're
really-
discussing, this transit line that would possibly go all the way to Springdale. And if this data is just collected and not accessible to like that system and other systems, it'll just go into a black hole or become dysfunctional. And so I'm curious about the governance. But as long as the rest of our partners are on board, then
I would like to recognize in attendance today, and probably fault myself for not doing it earlier, Walt Brooks, who is legislator for 75, I'm sorry. So Walt has a lot of experience with apps and their development and implementation and updating and rollout, and he's stepped in to land some of his expertise to this group to figure out how they could answer these questions and present it to the public officials so that those questions are answered. And I think he did an outstanding job with our Tourism Tax Advisory Board when we looked at this and considered it. So it was just kind of interesting that UOT and UDOT, they just want to have that same information as well. And I think it's good that we ask those questions, and I really appreciated you coming and answering them for us and doing such a great job of doing that. If you'd like, I'd be happy to invite you when we set that UDOT meeting up. I believe you have responsibilities with UDOT as well with your legislative assignment. So anyway, that's what that is, and so.
Yes.
I think that's great.
Okay, and the next one is $100,000 to the Trust for Public Lands to purchase the real estate at the entrance of Zion Narrows at Simon Gulch. As we know, it was closed down for a little while because it is on private property, and so this would be able to get it made so that it would never be closed. And I think there was a discussion that it would possibly be given to the park at some point or deeded to the park.
I think that it ultimately would end up in park ownership, and this $100,000 that the county would be contributing is not actually, it's the money that's needed for the final lift to get the necessary funding for the Simon Gulch properties to be acquired. I would really like to thank the Bullock family that owns this property and has allowed it to be used and has kept it open, and we've regularly renewed agreements with them for the past several months. And this would be, I feel, a great final resolution to that issue.
Because the property was appraised at what, $1.14 million?
It was $1.14 million.
Yeah. So.
I think the public needs to know that this is, they hear Zion Narrows and they think of inside the park.
Right.
This was a perimeter piece of property on the northeast, if you want to say that part of the park, that people had been using for years to gain access to the Narrows from that end. And this, as our chair explained, enables them to do so legally without trespassing. And this is a vital step to keep that additional opportunity to hike through the Narrows open. And it's also fair to the Bullocks, as they wouldn't have come forward if they didn't think so. So
Yeah, it's a great agreement, actually. Yeah.
yeah, nice.
And then $10,000 to the St. George Chamber Business Summit. That's actually to offset the cost of the Dixie Center rental for their summit. And $7,000 for marketing the Peach Days Festival in Hurricane.
Okay. Any questions for Brittany?
No? Already asked her about the county fair. She said it was going great.
It's great.
All right, Mr. Chair, I recommend that we approve the resolution number R 2019-2474, the resolution approving Tourism Advisory Board recommendations for these 5 items to be funded.
And should we do
Consideration-
that contingent with the
Yes.
agreement being
For the Zion Regional
negotiated with UDOT and UOT?
Collaborative, yes.
And that sounds agreeable to you, doesn't it?
It does, but we already have a member of understanding.
Mm-hmm. So I'm fine without the contingency. I think there's some exigent circumstances. They've got some students that could
Working on
intern
it.
and work on this, and so timing then is critical on it.
I always get
Okay.
worried because, state legislature's constantly moving the budgets around on these agencies. So how can we commit? And, they might not be able to finish. Just kidding.
I know.
I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm fine.
Okay, so
So I
just
removed that
accept the motion
contingency.
as
is.
read.
Yes, I second that
And
motion.
it's been seconded. All in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Item number 6, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2475, a resolution approving a contract between Washington County and Progressive Contracting, Inc. for the purpose of completing the NRCS Gypsum Wash Debris Basin project. Ron?
Another one of our NRCS projects. This one's a little different than the others we have done. This one, there's an agreement between NRCS and the Flood Control District. And since we are the sponsoring entity for NRCS here, they've still put us in charge of administering the contracts and the project itself. So Flood Control has a partnership or an agreement with NRCS, and then Washington City has an agreement with the flood control. It's actually in Washington City, and they'll be responsible for the match in kind, and they've already got that arranged for. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ron?
No.
Ron, thanks for all of your hard work with these NRCS projects. I really feel that they like to coordinate and run these through the county because of the great deal of cooperation they get from knowledge and experience. So, thank you.
That's absolutely the case. So.
Ron and I have been talking about this on the Flood Control Board for, 5 years, this very project. So it's good to see it coming to fruition.
Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2019-2475, a resolution approving a contract between Washington County and Progressive Contracting, Inc., contractor for the purpose of completing the NRCS Gypsum Wash Debris Basin.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioners. All in support of Resolution R 2019-2475, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 7, consideration of Resolution number R 2019-2476, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between participating entities in the Washington County bomb squads. Isn't it illegal to make a bomb?
It is actually. That's why we're
Okay,
around.
so
Just brief history. So if you notice, as Commissioner Cox said, the Washington County Bomb Squad, it's not the Sheriff's Office Bomb Squad, it's Washington County. We are the lead agency for the squad, but it is a collective effort. So Hurricane Valley Fire, pretty new coming on, so I'd like to thank Chief Coleman for that. So some changes that have come up, some are catching up to us and some are pretty recent, so we had to look at the MOU and make some adjustments working with the county attorney's office. So some brief history. Up until a couple years ago, the U.S. Army ran the Hazardous Devices School in Huntsville, Alabama. It's the school that every bomb technician goes to. Everybody, whether you're from Maine or New York or St. George, Utah, that's where we all go. There's been a transition. So the U.S. Army ran the school, but the FBI was the governing body that accredited bomb squads nationally. So every bomb squad in the nation is accredited by the FBI. In the past 3 years, there's been a transition where the U.S. military is getting out of it and turning everything over to the FBI. So part of the change is some specific verbiage that the FBI wanted in the agreement, and the other change would be bringing some new members on. So just recently, Chief Lynn Excel with Hurricane City Police Department has given a body to work with the squad. It's about a 2-year process to get certified though, so he'll have a long wait. In the meantime, he'll be training with us on a monthly basis, give him a little bit of advantage when he goes back to school. Hurricane Valley Fire just had one of their employees graduate about 3 weeks ago, so they're all up to speed and have provided a certified bomb tech to the squad. So,
By giving a body, you mean by giving a person?
yes, sorry, just to the point, Commissioner. So, yes, not to literally.
We just want somebody who'll actually
and
work.
Commissioner Iverson's comment about the old bomb trailer. So, just some insight. I know it's already been approved, but the statewide, we have a Utah Bomb Squad Task Force. There's 8 squads in the state that are part of that. It's a great collective effort. We're pretty unique compared to other states. We train monthly together. We meet together. We have grant funding that comes in through that task force, and then it's spread out amongst the 8 squads. So part of that funding for the new trailer is coming from that group.
And collectively, then, you agree on a rotating basis to cover other areas.
Correct.
I think we do most of southwest Utah and then.
5 southern counties, and then we rotate like Paiute with Utah County.
Right.
So depending on the month, they may come down, Paiute and Sevier, sorry. Depending on the month, they will either go up or they will come down, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense economically to cover all areas of the state, and we do that with these 8 squads. That's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Always wondered, how did do you cut the red wire or the blue wire?
You got to watch more movies.
Yeah.
well, and I would say, don't you agree that even neighboring states have followed this pattern somewhat?
They're not as organized as
Right.
There was a gentleman named Skip Curtis back in 2003. A lot of initial grant funding was coming in. He had the foresight to task force together. Again, other states, so Las Vegas, Nevada, their bomb squad is ran by the fire department. He's really interested in looking at what Utah is doing and adopting it.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
Well, I'll move then that we consider this resolution, R 2019-2476, approving a memorandum of understanding between participating entities in the Washington County Bomb Squad.
I will second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded in support of the resolution R 2019-2476. All in support say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And thank you, Chief Deputy Brooksby. Item number 8, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2477, a resolution approving grant applications for tourism marketing. Brittany, you're back up.
So as part of the Tourism Marketing Performance Fund that the legislature grants the Utah Office of Tourism, we're able to go after, each county is able to apply for $275,000 of matching funds to go towards our marketing projects. We go through an application process. It's quite a process, actually. It takes a lot of thorough planning, and we have to show a really solid ROI in order to get the funding. And so we're just in the process right now of finalizing our applications, and we need approval from the commission that if we're awarded the funds, though, the county will actually commit to matching the funds.
Okay.
Very good. Well, so just one last question.
Okay?
This is, we're applying for the grants, so right?
Correct.
Now
How much
Basically.
match do we need?
275.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2019-2477, a resolution approving a grant application for tourism marketing.
Thank you, Commissioner Iverson.
Second. 275 is 275,000, just for the record.
Yeah.
Brittany, how much
Because I got
grant be
275
if we
on me.
get it? Do we know until the state awards it? Okay. All right. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 9, consideration of resolution number R 2019-2478, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding between Washington County and Washington County Flood Control Authority for the purpose of administering natural resource conservation debris basin rehabilitation projects. Ron?
This is normally the part of the contract that we would sign with a community that has agreed to sponsor the 25% match, but since the community's already agreed with the flood control, we're signing this with the flood control to make sure they take care of our administrative costs for management of the contracts and anything that falls down to us, so we don't get stuck with some part of the match.
Okay. Questions for Ron?
No, but that's pretty clear.
No. You know, I've been really pleased that we haven't had any floods.
I think
Yeah.
it's because Gil's been on the Flood Control Authority for 5 years, and he's made sure we haven't had any floods or
yeah.
heavy rainstorms.
Outlawed
And
it.
With the second wettest year on record. You did a very fine job this year. And
Holding
keep
it
up.
back. Thanks.
Well, with that, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution R-2019-2478, a resolution approving a memorandum of understanding MOU between Washington County and the Washington County Flood Authority for the purpose of administering natural resource conservation services, NRCS, Free Basin Rehabilitation Project.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded in support of Resolution R 2019-2478. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We've hit the end of our agenda. Commissioners, unless you have anything further that you would like to add or comment on.
Just appreciate the progress that's being made for the county fair. And we want to thank Nicole, actually, because she's right out in front of what's happening over there, and Victor's lead on that, but I hear the feedback, and it's
No,
excellent.
all I do is stay up at night, toss and
you-
turn.
okay.
You know. That's my contribution to the process. Just lose sleep over it, but no, it's in good hands. That's
I think the chamber and Pam and Susie and
doing a great job.
your leadership, Cole, and all of those involved, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
Super.
We're adjourned.